Thank you for watching this short video. For those who don't know me, I'm Brother Sean. My nickname is the Barefoot Franciscan Monk because I live the life as a member of the Teo community of interspiritual Franciscans. So I'm an enclosed contemplative monk. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? In this wonderful world where there's so much temptation and so many cruises to take. Sure, I've done it all, and it's still left an emptiness in my heart. But since I surrendered my heart in 2007, after running my last retreat by the Red Sea, where I took a large group of people, where I'd been taking them for a number of years to embrace the divine feminine energies of the Supreme, in particular the Magdalena energy. But now my life is very different. It's less complicated. It's definitely more simple. But it's also something else. It's a life of prayer where we do the ordinary things extraordinarily well. For example, we have 6 working girls here. No, not the 2-legged sort that you would meet lying on a chaise lounge, but 6 hens. And they lay the most amazing eggs. But cleaning them out once a week is not really a job for the faint-hearted. But it's a prayer, because if it's done in love and offered, it can be a prayer. Walking the dogs through the woods is a prayer. Baking a cake for a neighbour just out of hospital is a prayer. Making a pan of Scotch broth for a young family who are struggling is a prayer. But what is prayer? It's the language of love. It's the language of intimacy between one's soul, one's heart, and one's God. And you and I both know that we do live in a beautiful world. It's not an evil world. Yes, man's greed and selfishness has turned it on its head. And that has spiraled out of control. We look at Syria. We look at the historical woundedness between the Shiite and Sunni Muslims, where even families are being divided, where parents are rejecting their children because they choose a different path. When you look at the Abrahamic faith, Jew, Muslim and Christian, how they've torn each other apart for centuries. Is that of God? It's not. It's man trying to outdo God. Look at all the splinter groups we have within the Christian family, and as a Catholic Christian who embraces all faiths, it's embarrassing because there's 1,428 divisions within the Christian family and not all like each other. Take for example the problems in Northern Ireland. I know them from first hand because when I was ordained a monk on the 8th of December 68, I was sent to Northern Ireland to work in our psychiatric hospital there. And we were caught in the middle of all those troubles between Catholic and Protestant. But there was an evil influence that underpinned that resentment. It wasn't religion per se. A lot of it was historical woundedness, a lack of trust between 2 religious factions. And of course within the Catholic and Protestant community, who both Christian, there were the fundamentalists who sought revenge, who did not want peace because their life was in crisis. So how do we bring around a place where we can all live in peace? Well, I remember as a young monk in training back in 1966 on a little island called Cove, County Cork, in Southern Ireland. And Brother Gabriel said to me, the reason why the world is in such a state of turmoil is because of this. And I'll share with you the quote, and maybe one day when you've matured in the spiritual life it will mean something to you, and I'd like to share it with you. Desolate is the whole world laid desolate, because no man thinks in his heart. Or, as the great Buddha Dhampada said, hate is not overcome by hate. Hate is overcome by love. You have met God's messengers, I'm sure, in your lifetime, where they do good deeds, where they are peacemakers. For example, in my lifetime, we have Martin Luther King, who paid the price. The great Sri Chinmoy, Mia Baba, Mother Teresa of Calcutta. These are just to name a few. I see my life really as a monastic, apart from being a prayer partner for you and for those who contact me for prayer, and also for the situations in the world, the time bombs ready to explode, like North Korea, Afghanistan, Syria, Africa, Egypt, Israel. The list is endless. I see myself more like a spiritual wheelbarrow. What a concept. Yes, a spiritual wheelbarrow that can be taken to any place and anything dumped in it for it to be recycled by the love of Gaia and God. Prayer is an important weapon against evil. We may not see the results in our lifetime, but hey, look, the Berlin Wall, how long did that take for it to come down? When you think what the Berlin Wall did, it destroyed families. It cut right through homes, where part of the house was in east and the other part was in the west. The same in Cyprus, where you've got the two factions, with the Turks, and then of course the Greeks, the Cypriots. One Orthodox, one Islam. Why is it that man has this insatiable desire to control, to own and destroy? People say to me about people who are millionaires. Maybe they may be millionaires in wealth, in materialism, but many of them are lonely, frustrated, unfulfilled people, because they spend most of their life worrying about their investment. But you and I are millionaires because we have been given the gift of free will to choose to do right or to do wrong, to choose to live a simpler life instead of taking from the earth to put something back. It's always good to exchange an energy. When someone gives you a gift, it's always good in kind to exchange. But today that's not happening. Mankind are taking from the earth. They are destroying the equilibrium and the balance of the ecosystems, the rainforests. And so many are like lambs led to the slaughter. They have lost their voice. Many are afraid. Look, I remember when I was a senior charge nurse running an acute medical ward in Manchester, a post I held for 8 years. And I had nurses coming to me complaining about their managers. You'd call a meeting and you'd address the points. But when you looked to them for support, they disappeared into the woodwork. Fear. Afraid of being seen, to be different. Well, today, I believe we have to be different. I know I stand out like a sore thumb when I go out to do the weekly shop for the monastery and people see me in my fancy dress. Some think I'm going to a party. Some think I've come from a party. I'm not ashamed to wear my fancy dress. My habit is my witness. And yes, I do encounter negativity from certain individuals, especially those who've been wounded by the church, and many have been wounded by religion. And I acknowledge that, but there are many who come to you and ask you to pray with them because they're struggling. They may be suicidal. They've just had a diagnosis of cancer and can't cope. So they just need someone to hold them and to say they'll walk with them. To be a spiritual wheelbarrow means to offer your availability and your vulnerability to God. For God to put in that barrow the requests of the children of God. Prayer is our ministry. We become consultants in prayer. As people become consultants in medicine and nursing, in the IT industry, they specialize. Well, so do we, who are ordinary men and women who've chosen to live a simpler life. And I wouldn't swap it for all the tea in China, because it's a rich life. It's a life that brings abundance from God. My needs are met every day. I own nothing, but I have everything. There is nothing I want for. Absolutely nothing. Everything is taken care of. Why do I say that? Because the vow of providence that we take prohibits applying for any funding for our survival. We trust in Almighty God, and God meets our needs. That's crazy talk in a materialistic world, isn't it? Where you have the haves and the have-nots. Keeping up appearances, keeping up with the Joneses. Oh, they've had double glazing, Fred, we must have some. Oh, they've got a brand new car in the driveway, we can't be seen to have an old banger. And they get into debt. And the financial crisis that we faced, all of us. Yes, the banks were behind it, for being too clever for their own good and being too greedy. But many people were overstretched. They were living beyond their means. They were in debt up to their gills. That's not living. Because if you owe anybody money, they own you. Think about it. If you take out a loan for a kitchen to buy carpets in a suite, the finance company own you. If you take out a large loan, you usually have to put your property up as collateral. And if anything goes wrong and you lose your job and you've no insurance cover, you've lost your home. Too many people lived beyond their means. They became greedy. I've seen it in my own family. Then they lose everything. And then they have to resort to cleaning floors as cleaners to make ends meet, particularly now in a recession. So think about prayer. When you're feeling helpless and vulnerable, switch off the mind. All its nonsense, its fear, its guilt. Come into your heart. Take 5-10 minutes. Be still. Light a candle. Take a deep breath. Break wind if you must. But make a connection with the Earth Mother, Gaia. Make a connection with your guardian angel. And then ask for help. And as night follows day, you will be given that help. A wheelbarrow in a garden is an important vehicle, for it collects refuse. It also delivers stuff that you can't carry, such as a bag of peat, maybe a few stones. It has a two-way purpose. of giving and sharing to the earth and taking and receiving its debris. As a spiritual wheelbarrow, we take on board the troubles of the world and we bring them to God in prayer. And then we bring from God the blessings, words of hope that we share with you, as I am trying to do through this video. There's another saying that's coming to me right now. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and suffer the loss of his soul? What does it profit you to have all that the world offers you and you're still unhappy? Let me read this to you. It's a reflection for today, and it was a channeled message from the Cosmic Christ. You cannot serve two masters. If I am truly your master, you will desire to please me above all others. If pleasing people is your goal, you will be enslaved to them. People can be harsh taskmasters when you give them this power over you. If I am the master of your life, I will also be your first love. Your serving me is rooted and grounded in my vast, unconditional love for you. The lower you bow down before me, the higher I lift you up into intimate relationships with me. The joy of living in my presence outshines all other pleasures. I want you to reflect my joyous light by living in increasing intimacy with me. Those are the words of the Cosmic Christ of the Aquarian age, speaking to your heart. They've spoken to mine, and I thank God I was given the courage to surrender my heart and embrace a much simpler life. I pray that you will have the courage to face your demons and your fears and allow the light in. Because you know, people say, oh, you're cracked, Brother Sean. And I say, yes, for it is the cracks that allows the light in, so we can let our light shine. Namaste.